What's going on, everybody? It's another Al Gattulo Craft Beer Cast on AM 970. The Answer, someday, some way. Marshall Crenshaw, one-hit wonder from way back in 1982. Do you remember that one? I vaguely remember that one. I think Z100 might have played that way back in the day. Way back in the day. Boy, oof. I don't even want to think about how old I was back then. Anyway, let's move on. Coming up in 20 minutes, Joel Geier. He is the author of Flights Across America. It's a breweries lover's journey. He'll join me on the program. The book will be released on December the 17th via Amazon, et cetera, wherever you get your books. We'll get into it about how he decided to write this book, how many places he's been to, et cetera. A really fun conversation with Joel that's coming up in just about 20 minutes from now. You certainly want to tune in for that. But we've got news to get to. Colorado Brewers Guild, which is a nonprofit trade organization for independent craft brewers in the state of craft beer, as they like to say in Colorado, proudly announces the return of the 10th annual Colorado Pint Day. That'll take place on Wednesday, March the 5th of next year. Colorado Pint Day, a time-honored tradition that has developed a cult following throughout the years, with beer lovers flocking to participating breweries to pick up limited edition glassware. The CBG's beloved fundraiser supports local craft breweries and is always held on a Wednesday during a typically slower season for breweries. $1 of each pint glass that is sold is also donated to the Colorado Brewers Guild to support the nonprofit trade association's mission of promoting, protecting, and propelling its members through advocacy, education, and public awareness. The CBG hit record-breaking numbers last year for Colorado Pint Day. Listen to this. More than 225 participating locations across the state for the past 4 years. The CBG has hosted an art competition for beer-loving local creatives. This year, Leanne Bride has produced the winning design for the 2024 theme, Beer is for Everyone. So kudos to the CBG for doing that. Again, that's going to take place on Wednesday, March the 5th. You go to a participating brewery in Colorado, and $1 of each pint glass that is sold will be donated to the Colorado Brewers Guild. We'll get a list of all those breweries to you when the time comes closer to March 5th. Because if I tell you now, you're certainly not going to remember. News from two California breweries. One, AleSmith in San Diego. If you haven't been to AleSmith in Miramar, literally across the street from where they do Top Gun, you need to go there. Forged in 1995, AleSmith, recognized as one of the world's foremost craft brewing companies. It's a fantastic place. Certainly their beers are worth chasing down. The Speedway Stout variations are amazing. I was there a couple of years ago when they did their Grand Prix of Speedway Stouts during San Diego Beer Week. It's awesome. And now they are offering 4 different variations of that Imperial Stout in its Grand Prix on the Road 4-pack. In this uber special mixed pack, listen to what you're going to get. Speedway Stout Maple Bar Edition. That's Imperial Stout with maple syrup and coffee. That's at 12% ABV. Then you got Speedway Stout the Rocky Road Edition. It's an Imperial Stout with cacao nibs, roasted almonds, roasted walnuts, Madagascar vanilla beans, and coffee, also clocking in. They all clock in at 12% ABV. Then you get the Chocolate Raspberry Edition, which is cacao nibs, raspberry, and coffee, along with their base Imperial Stout. And then finally, Toasted Coconut Vietnamese Coffee Edition. It's toasted coconut and Vietnamese coffee. It's packaged in 16-ounce 4-pack cans and draft. AleSmith Speedway Stout variations now available in California, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Minnesota, Texas, Illinois, Washington, Oregon, Arizona, and Virginia. I know I'm going to be up in Pennsylvania soon. I absolutely need to see if I can get my hands on a 4-pack of this, because that sounds delicious. Wookie Jack is back for a limited seasonal release from Firestone Walker. This is over a dozen years ago this was released. Firestone Wookie Jack, an 8.3% ABV black rye IPA, toasted malted rye notes, and a balanced bite at the finish. This is a great beer. I've had this before. It's a fantastic. They usually throw it into 12-packs and stuff, but you can certainly get this beer wherever Firestone Walker is sold. That's my only bad thing about Firestone Walker is we don't get enough of it in the state of New Jersey. We get some bottles and stuff, the anniversary ale, but you really have to go digging for it. Some of the basic Firestone Walker stuff we get, but we don't really get some of the more special stuff. That's disappointing. You have to really search for it. It's not in every liquor store. And that leads me to my next topic here before we take a break. The Brewers Association put out their year-in-beer recap. And for a second straight year, production declines appear likely. The full-year craft volume number is likely to be weaker than the mid-year estimate of down 2%. If those trends hold, 2024 will join last year as the only 2 years in which independent breweries' volume has declined in the modern era outside of the pandemic. Bart Watson, the Vice President of Strategy and Membership, said in a press release, craft has been going through a painful period of rationalization, and as demand growth has slowed and retailers and distributors look to simplify their offerings or add options for flavor and variety outside of the craft category. That said, breweries have reacted to these changes by focusing on distribution, continuing to innovate in their tap rooms and brew pubs, creating groups and partnerships, and offering a wider range of beverages in their portfolios. That's interesting to note. In addition, Watson added that the new normal for distributed craft brands is no longer growth, but fighting for shelf space. That's incredibly important. Rethinking footprints and portfolios and looking at non-alcoholic and categories outside of beer as opportunities for growth. The slowing category also means more winners and losers for brew pubs and tap rooms, although many small brewers are still finding ways to end up in the winner column, with around half of breweries reporting growth in our mid-year survey, Watson said. Couple of insights that shaped the industry this year. Here's a recap. The BA counted 9,736 small and independent craft breweries in operation at some point in 2024. That's down from the all-time high of 9,761 breweries in 2023. So that's not, about 30 breweries. Closings, though, did outpace openings. For the first time in recent history, the number of closings for craft breweries outpaced openings. In 2024, 399 breweries closed, while 335 new breweries opened. By comparison, 495 breweries opened in 2023 compared to 418 closures. The last time closings outpaced openings was in the early 2000s. The trend had held for several years. 460,000 jobs supported of those 9,000 breweries, both directly and indirectly. Here's the hottest market trends, though. The growth of non-alcoholic beer, 30% year over year from January through October. The increased focus on flagships and other core products rather than endless innovation, and the greater emphasis on hospitality, such as diverse dining options, cocktails, and mindful drinking options, as well as family-friendly activities. 40,000 plus people attended the Great American Beer Festival this past October. This year's festival featured more than 2,500 beers from an excess of 500 breweries, as well as ciders, ready-to-drink cocktails, hard teas, and kombuchas. That's the first time they've added those things there. They say that next year will be another challenging year. Additional uncertainty, potential tariffs, and rising costs, retailers and distributors looking to simplify offerings, and potentially new dietary guidelines for beverage alcohol. The BA said they also anticipate market pressures leading to consolidation and alliances to cut costs and utilize excess capacity. To grow in 2025, Watson said, breweries must do what they do best, adapt. They also will need to continue to do the hard work to find ways to tell their story and differentiate their brands against the competition. Watson is spot on about a lot of this stuff. Shelf space is a major problem when it comes to beer. If your beer is being buried in the back of a liquor store cooler, you're not going to get sales. Conversely, I think you're going to start to see more people heading to the breweries directly to buy their beer as opposed to going to a liquor store. And I think you're going to see some pullback from some local breweries trying to get that shelf space in liquor stores because there are so many new brands that are coming, just state of New Jersey, New York, whatever, that it's very difficult to differentiate yourself. I think the other part of it is in terms of the tap room. You've got to innovate. You've got to do things a little bit differently. I'm not saying you have to make a non-alcoholic beer. I'm not saying you have to make a cider. In Jersey, you can't do that at a brewery. I'm not saying you have to offer food because, again, at breweries, you can't have food in New Jersey. But you do need to do things differently, whether it's drawing people in on a hook on something. Like this past weekend, Wet Ticket did a whole Santa thing where you wear your pajamas and they had a food truck outside and whatever. You've got to do things differently to get people in the building. I do think you have to offer some sort of hard seltzer or a non-alcoholic option for people that don't drink beer. That's important. You can kick and scream all you want, but I think you need that to get some people in the door. Maybe offer a non-alcoholic option. Buy yourself a couple of 4-packs of Athletic Brewing. I've said this before. You can sell that in New Jersey breweries. But you've got to do things differently. You can't just, we make, 20 beers and we rotate, another 20 beers and whatever. I think you're going to see breweries pulling back because of the cost of ingredients and things of that nature. I think you're going to see less in crazy new offerings and more in, these are our base beers. We're going to stick with these things because we know they're good. That's just my opinions. I think, next week's show, I'd like to get into this a little bit more because I think it's important to understand that if you don't innovate and you don't change, you're going to go out of business. It's not enough just to have great beer to get people in your tap room. You've got to do a few things differently sometimes. When we come back after a short break, more news and notes from around the beer world. This is the Algatulo Craft Beer Cast on AM 970, The Answer. Welcome back to the Algatulo Craft Beer Cast on AM 970, The Answer. Hold the line from Toto, going way back in the time machine to the 80s. Toto just announcing a tour, of which I will be at next July the 25th at PNC Bank Art Center. Get this, Toto, Men at Work, Christopher Cross. Could you ask for a better 80s trifecta? I certainly can't. Pumped to go. And my wife is actually going to come. I mean, she says so now. We'll see what happens in July. My wife is not a big summer concert fan. She does not like the heat. So, it'll be a flip of the coin that day, whether or not she goes or not. But I'm excited. This is going to be a lot of fun. I've seen Toto in concert. I've never seen Men at Work. I've never seen Colin Hay Men at Work in concert, so I'm excited about that. And I've never seen Christopher Cross in concert. Every time I want to see Christopher Cross, he's playing on like an odd night, like a Tuesday or a Sunday, and it's like, do I want to take a day off from work the next day? It's Christopher Cross. I don't know. I'm going. So that's it. Done. Toto, Men at Work, Christopher Cross. Yeah, maybe it's a wine and cheese night. I don't know. Coming up in just a few minutes, Joel Geier, the author of Flights Across America, a brewery lover's journey, joins me on the program. The book is going to be released this coming December the 17th via Amazon and wherever you get your books. And we're going to get into it with Joel about what was his decision to write this book, his journey through writing the book, and traveling to so many different places across the United States, because he's been in all 50 states to try beer, which is pretty cool. A lot of fun I had with Joel, and that's coming up in just a few minutes from now. Of course, we've talked about this. Speaking of December 17th, that's when the bands will be announced and the general on sale for the Atlantic City Beer and Music Festival. The 19th, the 19th annual Atlantic City Beer and Music Festival, which is set for Saturday, March 29th at the Atlantic City Convention Center. John Henderson just posted a video the other day. They locked in the last band. They're excited. They've signed up a bunch of breweries, vendors. It's going to be fun. Over 100 of the East Coast finest breweries, 2 high-energy sessions. Right now, the tickets are available until Tuesday, December 17th, until midnight at $65, tax and fees. So if you get in before midnight this coming Tuesday, December 17th, you can get your tickets for $65 plus tax and fees. Once they announce the band lineup, that will be announced Wednesday, December 18th at 10 a.m., the ticket price will go up. VIP tickets will be on sale. Ticket prices will go up. acbeerfest.com for details. I will be there. I am not sure, again, what session. Actually, my best friend and I, this coming Thursday, we're getting together with a couple people for dinner, and we have to lock in what session are we going to. Are we doing the early one, the noon to 4? Or are we doing the, I think it's 6 to 10 or 5 to, whatever it is. I think it's noon to 4, and then I think it's 6 to 10 o'clock on that Saturday. March 29th, because I'll be down there the night before. In fact, Yacht Rock Review's playing the night before at the Hard Rock. I was debating whether or not to go to that. I mean, it's just it's first world problems. Let's put it that way. Good problems to have. Let's put it that way. Big Brew Beer Festival, that's taking place Saturday, March 1st. March 1st. Okay, yeah. Let's try that again. Saturday, March 1st. We'll try that again. A VIP hour from noon to 1, general admission 1 to 5 p.m. The tickets are on sale now. BigBrewNJ.com. That's the only site where you can purchase tickets. There are only 500 VIP tickets available. That gets you in an hour early, gets you first access to all the special releases without the crowds. Let's see. Live music by Mr. Lovejoy, a benefit for the Morris Rugby Corporation. BigBrewNJ.com. That's where you can get your tickets and the info. I will be at that event. The event I will not be at on the same day is the Brewsology Beer Fest, which will take over the Liberty Science Center in Jersey City. After hours, features over 50 breweries, 150 beers and access throughout the museum. You get unlimited beer samples with inclusive access to the center's exhibits, stage demonstrations, and a few fun surprises. It's the boozy hybrid of your middle school field trip. Saturday, March 1st, 7 to 11 p.m., 7 to 8 p.m. is the VIP hour. 8 to 11 is the general admission time. $65 for general admission tickets. $80 for VIP. Brewsology.com/Jersey City for more details on that one. I can't do 2 beer fests in one day, and I got to pick one or the other, and I'm definitely picking Big Brew because I always have a good time at that event. The Brewsology one is great, but I think kind of dumb planning on the part of the Brewsology people because Big Brew had been promoted for at least a month beforehand. They should have picked a different Saturday, honestly. It's just a bad confluence of events. What are you going to do? Tap NY, those tickets are on sale now. Blackthorn Resort, it'll be taking place in East Durham, New York, just 45 miles south of Albany. It's going to take place over 2 days. Your ticket purchase gets you a continuous 4-ounce samples of craft beverages, continuous food samples including corn dogs. I don't know why they're making such a big deal about corn dogs. Additional food, dessert vendors, live music. There'll be vendors, games, all kinds of stuff. It's taking place June 28th and 29th of next year. Noon to 1 p.m. is the VIP. 1 to 5:30 is the general admission. The taps will close at 5 p.m. If you're a VIP, you get 5 hours of drinking time. General admission, you get 4 hours of drinking time. Blackthorn Resort is at 348 Sunside Road in East Durham, New York. Info at blackthornresort.com. They're going to have a pre-party Friday night. We'll have an after-party on Saturday. And, again, there's packages to stay at the resort and things of that nature. tap-ny.com/about is where you go and get your tickets there. Yuengling is expanding its distribution to Illinois in early 2025. It'll be available on draft by the end of January with packaged product hitting store shelves shortly after. Now, the flagship offerings in Illinois will be Yuengling's traditional lager, the Golden Pilsner, Black and Tan, and Flight will also be available in the land of Lincoln. Illinois is the 28th state where Yuengling beer is sold. It's also the latest to open via the Yuengling Company, Yuengling's joint venture with Molson Coors. Back in July, Yuengling swapped its Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi territories to the JV for the Michigan market. Pretty cool there. And finally, Athletic Brewing has a new limited edition Belgian-style white that's called Host and Toast. It's a collaboration with Food 52, which is a leading home cookware lifestyle brand. Host and Toast features sweet Meyer lemon, notes of grains of paradise atop herbal and peppery undertones. It's brewed to be enjoyed on its own or elevated in your favorite non-alcoholic cocktail. It is the perfect pick for effortless entertaining this holiday season. That sounds good. I know that my buddy Chris Fernari, who's running PR over there, is going to be sending me some of this Host and Toast. I am looking forward to trying that, a non-alcoholic Belgian-style white beer. Food 52 is a next-generation cooking and home company. It's named one of the world's most innovative companies by Fast Company with a monthly reach of more than 25 million people. Food 52 connects a global community of experts and amateurs, supporting them with inspirational, useful content such as recipes, videos, podcasts, cookbooks, and more. So that's kind of cool. So thank you to the folks at Athletic Brewing. That should be exciting. One of the things, before we take a break here, I talk about all these different beer events that are going on. Obviously, New York City Beer Week is going to be happening, too, at the end of February. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. And, part of the thing that we've been talking about is choice, right? You want to pick the festival that gives you the most bang for your buck. Because now I think it's not just the beer getting you to this event. There has to be other things going on. I don't mind now that a craft beer event has other things, whether it's sangria or spirits or wine or canned cocktails or things of that nature, because you want to appeal to all people, I think, at this point. And especially that some people's tastes, especially the younger generation, where they're like, I don't know if I necessarily want to drink beer, but if it's a canned cocktail, I'll drink that. I mean, that was the case this past year at the Atlantic City Beer and Music Fest. I'm sure it's going to be that way again. I think it's a smart move. I think you bring more people in. You introduce more people to what is going on. And I think when money is not as disposable as it once was, I mean, let's face it, pandemic is over. There was a lot of pandemic funds that were thrown around. People had extra money. The government gave us money, sitting home. I think that, you're very, and I know I'm very selective at the things that I go to. If I'm putting down my money on something, I want to make sure that I'm getting my bang for my buck. It's really economics. So make your festival a great one, and you'll never have an issue with getting tickets sold out. That's just my 2 cents there. What are you going to do? When we come back after a short break, Joel Geier, he's the author of Flights Across America, A Brewery Lover's Journey, is going to join me on the program. Great discussion with Joel. This is the Al Gattullo Craft Beer Cast on AM 970, The Answer. Welcome back to the Al Gattullo Craft Beer Cast on AM 970, The Answer. You can follow me on, they call it X, I call it Twitter, at Al Gattullo, Instagram at Gattullo, Gattullo, Facebook.com/AG Craft Beer Cast, Google Podcasts, although I don't think that's a thing anymore, Odyssey, iTunes, iHeart, Alexa, we're all over the place. And, of course, you can hear us over at the HoppedUpNetwork.com. Monday mornings, a couple minutes after the live show ends. You can download and listen to the entire show as a podcast in your entirety. Just head over to the HoppedUpNetwork.com. There's some great other beer shows that are on there as well, including my own. Now, my next guest, he is the author of a new book that'll be released on December the 17th, and it's all about his journey across America, having flights at different craft breweries in all 50 states. You can follow him on X at Brewery Travels. You can order the book, of course, on Amazon.com or wherever you get your books. Let me welcome to the Craft Beer Cast for the first time, Joel Geier. Joel, welcome. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me on, Al. I'm excited to be able to be here and get to talk about our shared passion in beer and craft breweries.
Absolutely. So how did the idea of this book start? And can you remember if that you were at a brewery or drinking a craft beer that made you say, hey, I should write a book about this?
Well, the book idea kind of was a slow process of over time while I was traveling. So just to have an understanding of, so people understand how I got to almost 1,400 breweries across all 50 states. My wife has worked as a travel nurse previously, and for the last several years, she's worked as a nurse practitioner fully remote. And at least for the last 5.5 years, I've been a stay-at-home dad. And so we have traveled the country with our kids. And I think since we've been married a little over 9 years and have lived in 14 different states.
Wow.
So throughout the travels, I loved sharing my experiences on Twitter. I am also someone that's going to go with Twitter, not X.
Right.
And I love sharing my experiences on Twitter and Instagram, and I wrote articles and started my own little website. And as I got to more and more places, I kind of liked the idea of, writing a book, because it was a way, in my mind, of being able to kind of do a culmination and really put everything in one place. Mm-hmm. Because obviously, when you're posting on Twitter or Instagram, you post it once and then it kind of, it's eventually going to not get lost, but, it's going to be hard to find and search, and it's not everything's going to be together, and it's not the same as having something, a hard copy of something where you can find all that information in one place.
100%. Now,
and
go ahead.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that once I got close to 1,000 breweries is when I started working on it. And then I didn't know for sure if I was going to get to all 50 states, but we were able to make that happen. Right. And yeah, like I say on the back of the book, it's basically my ode to my love of breweries. It's kind of a combination between a how-to guide for visiting breweries, a travel guide, and also just kind of a memoir. So there's a lot of great information there.
All right. Now, you drank beers in all 50 states, and you said you were able to accomplish that. But how long did it take you to accomplish that?
So I visited my first brewery my senior year of college in 2015. So it took me less than a decade because I visited. I'd been to Alaska in high school, but Alaska was the last state that I needed to visit for breweries, and we were there in June, this past June. So, and we had done Hawaii earlier this past spring. So those were kind of the final two. And my wonderful wife, who doesn't even like beer, during our travels, we made several detours to get to places such as Arkansas and Mississippi and West Virginia to spend nights there so that I could get to additional breweries in those states. But yeah, so that's, being able to live on the road for a lot was what really enabled this to happen.
Well, your wife is a saint for being able to follow you on your journey through this and not say, you know what, this is ridiculous, I don't want to do this. We're talking with author Joel Geier and his book, Flights Across America. It'll be released on December the 17th. You can follow him on X at Brewery Travels. You can also order the book on Amazon.com or wherever you get your books. We're here on the Al Gattullo Craft Beer Cast on AM 970 The Answer. And to follow up on all the 50 states, if someone, Joel, wanted to start a beer journey and travel to different states on vacation or however they wanted to do it to breweries, how would you suggest that they go about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And like I said, the first part of the book is basically a how-to guide before I get into describing the craft beer scenes all over the country. I talk about beer tourism, how to plan a beercation, things I look for when visiting a brewery, questions to ask. And part of planning, the beercation is, not necessarily thinking about having to travel just for breweries, because oftentimes I was, traveling with the family, but we were doing other things.
Right.
And so taking advantage of whenever you are out and about somewhere, looking for opportunities to visit breweries and, taking the time to kind of do some research. And because the way I did it, I kind of explained to people, it became, from a passionate hobby to almost an obsession. Like I did a lot of research. I was always, on top of wherever we were going to be going. Right. And I also tell people that, honestly, in most cases, make sure that you're fully exploring your own craft beer scene, too.
Right.
Wherever you're living, there's most likely a lot of really good local beer there. And I know most people haven't probably visited every brewery in their own cities. So, that's also an opportunity to get out there and kind of learn more about how each of these breweries are kind of their own little fingerprint. They're all very unique, the tap room and the history there, the beers. Because even if you go to 3 breweries and have a pale ale at each one, they're all going to be slightly different.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's kind of my, advice is to look for opportunities. And then once you have exhausted the easier opportunities, then you can start to look into, going to some of the, more hot spots, that may be more well-known for their craft beer. But I talk about in the book, at this point, pretty much everywhere has some good craft beer being made.
That's true. That's true. I mean, there's good craft beer, there's great, and there's also really bad too and mediocre. So it all depends on what you're looking for. But let me ask you, Joel, when you go to these breweries, is there a favorite style of beer that you enjoy on the regular when you walk into one of these breweries, or is it sort of I want the most popular beer that you guys are serving right now?
Yeah, so it's definitely kind of a combination. So in my flights, I like to get a variety. Mm-hmm. At a typical brewery, so something light, something dark, something hoppy, and then kind of a wild card. But it does definitely depend about what a brewery is known for. For instance, if you go to the Alchemist or, another IPA-focused brewery, or you go to a sour brewery, obviously that's going to become what you're mostly going to drink. But I do like to also ask questions. In the book, I talk about one of the very first questions I always try to ask if I have the opportunity is to know what their flagships are. Because occasionally it's not going to be an IPA or a lager. One place in Dallas, it was an Imperial Red Ale, and it was amazing. So you never know exactly, what kind of styles maybe the brewery's focus. For me personally, I will say I drink a lot of lagers when I'm at home. In particular, I love Czech lagers.
Okay.
But at this point, like I said, I like to get a variety because I want to get a good feel for what the brewery has to offer. But that's also why I asked the question, because I also want to get the beers that, the brewery may have most dialed in, essentially.
Sure, 100%. We're talking with author Joel Geier. His book, Flights Across America, will be released on December the 17th. You can follow him on X at Brewery Travels. You can also order the book on Amazon.com. We're here on the Al Gattullo Craft Beer Cast on AM 970, The Answer. So in your opinion, Joel, and again, it's just your opinion, but what is, in your opinion, the best city or state for beer?
That is a great question, and I can kind of give you an answer. So towards the back of the book, I actually have a large section that is dedicated to my annual review award winners. So for each of the last 7 years I've done, at the end of the year, I give out 20 different awards, from best taproom interior to, best IPA to best tap handles, and best beer city is one of the awards. And I have it broken down into best beer city large and best beer city small, because in my eyes, comparing a place like San Diego or Denver, to a place such as, Asheville or Portland, they're two very, very different experiences. So I do have a list of, those 7 that won the awards, as well as some honorable mentions in the book. So you'll be able to go through and see my favorites from each year that I was traveling. I will say that I tend to lean towards Denver for my favorite large beer city.
Okay.
We lived there for a spell a couple years back,
right,
near the Rhino neighborhood, and I used to always say San Diego, and San Diego is still definitely my top 2 or 3 for big cities.
Yep.
San Diego is just, their beer scene is a little more spread out, whereas a lot of the best breweries in Denver are more centralized. So it's a little easy to get between the big names in Denver than it is to get between the big names in San Diego, because San Diego has some amazing beer neighborhoods. But if you want to hit all the top spots, it's, San Diego is a very spread out area.
I've been there a number of times, and you're exactly right. To drive to all of them is very difficult to do in one day, and you really have to be sort of conscious of your alcohol content level, because if you're trying to Uber and Lyft to these places, it'll cost you easily $1,000 to travel between all of them. All right, last question from me, Joel. What is the brewery that you went to that had the most unique thing? And it could be beer, their layout, their ambiance. In your opinion, what's the best one that you went to?
That's the most interesting. So funny enough, that's one of my awards as well. It's the most interesting brewery, as well as I have an award for most interesting beer. So there are obviously so many places that were incredibly unique. A couple off the top of my head I can think of. One was actually out in San Diego, White Labs, where they started off as a yeast manufacturer.
Right.
And they brew, and so they brew beers, obviously, but then each batch is separated into like 2 or 3. They separate into 2 or 3 different beers, essentially, but using different yeast strains. So you get to try the same beer, but the only thing that's changed is the yeast. And so it showcases, and which makes sense, they're a yeast manufacturer, and it allows them to showcase how much yeast impacts the beer. I've also been to a brewery in Indiana, Books and Brews, that's also a used bookstore. It's a chain, and it's a used bookstore that raises all the money and proceeds go to literary foundations. And so you walk in, and all the walls are covered with books, with bookshelves of books you can buy. Pretentious Beer Company in Knoxville, Tennessee. That's one that is attached. They started off as a glass blowing studio and make incredible craft beer glasses. I have owned several of them.
Nice.
So then they added a brewery that's now connected to the glass blowing studio. So yeah, there's a lot. I've been to brewery hotels. I've been to some historic breweries that make Groots. So yeah, that's one of the best parts of doing this, is just finding these really unique places and being able to share that with people.
Well, I cannot wait to dive into the book. My guest has been author Joel Geier. His book, Flights Across America. It'll be released on December the 17th. You can follow him on X at Brewery Travels. You can also order the book on Amazon.com. Joel, thanks so much for joining me tonight. I very much appreciate it. This is fascinating. Would love to have you back on at some point.
Absolutely, Al. Anytime. You now know where to find me, and I always am open to coming on and talking about one of my passions, because I just love being able to discuss it with folks. And my hope is that this book will both encourage people that already love craft beer to take that next step, as well as introducing more people to the joys of traveling for craft beer.
Awesome. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. Up next, it's time for Suds and Duds on the Al Gattullo Craft Beer Cast on AM 970 The Answer. Oh, the great Robert Cray. Just saw him, boy, was it not even 2 months ago over in Rahway at the Union County Performing Arts Center. That is Smoking Gun from his Strong Persuader album, probably his most well-known album back in 1986. This is the Al Gattullo Craft Beer Cast on AM 970 The Answer. Final segment of the show, as always, is Suds and Duds. Let's talk about some of the beers that I have had over the past week or so. Now, there is a beer that I'm going to review on next week's program. This is what we call a tease in the business. That is probably one of the most oddest, most unique beers that I've ever had in the, I don't know how many years that I've been imbibing in alcohol. But that's for next week's program. Very interesting. And I shared it with a couple of people, and they all sort of had the same reaction to it. It was interesting. I digress. We'll move on from there. Maple Creamy, this one by Source. Maple syrup forward big time on this one. Nice hit of the vanilla ice cream and a touch of cinnamon on the back end. But, boy, the maple was very, very present. A smash pour. Delicious beer. They do a great job, Source, with their smash beers. I keep saying this. I have time off during the holidays. I've got to get down to Source and have a couple of beers down there. I know my wife has got a couple of days off after Christmas. I have like 1 day off after New Year's. It's kind of juggling around, but I'm going to figure out a way to get over there and have a beer. There's so many things that I want to do during the time that I have off, and yet the way the holiday falls, it's kind of weird, so I don't really have time. I don't know if that makes any sense. Anyway, another can of Too Much Fun from Wet Ticket. Still holding up. This is the first batch that we did back in September. It's delicious. I still got a few more cans in the fridge. What a great beer. I love it. I'm just so proud of it. I'm so proud that it sold out, and they made another batch of it, and people seem to really enjoy it. I was watching when I was at Wet Ticket last week how people were just coming in and coming out. People were buying 4-packs of the beer. People were, hey, I'll take a pour of that. Makes me feel good. Let's put it that way. And what always makes me feel good is a classic. Sometimes when you're drinking craft beer or drinking anything, right, you go back to a beer that maybe got you into craft beer or just an OG that you always see, and it's always going to be consistently good, even though this is a remastered version of it. Sam Adams Boston Lager, still a good beer. It's slightly sweeter than the original, but it is still a delicious beer. And I never not like Sam Adams. Let's put it that way. I do think that when they try to go outside the box of what they do, I think it's hit or miss. And that's, I'll freely admit that. But when they make their classics, like the Boston Lager, it's dialed in. There's nothing better. I'd rather have that on tap than something else if there is no independent or local craft beer on tap. Melissa's Wings by Twin Elephant Brewing. This bottle has been sitting in my refrigerator probably for 2 years. Now, it's been cold the entire time, so there's no, back and forth or whatever. But I finally got around to cracking it. I just decided I wanted to have something big and boozy during the Thanksgiving weekend. And boy, I'm glad I finally cracked it. So good. Coffee, vanilla, hazelnut. It's all in there. It's all in a perfect mix. Or a perfect melange, as they say. It's delicious. And I like the size of the bottle for the fact that if you want to share it, you can share it. But if you don't want to share it and you want to drink it all on your own, you can. I mean, obviously, you have to drink it over the course of a couple of hours. This isn't something you guzzle down. You sort of sip it slowly. I mean, it's 13, 14%, whatever it is. Such a good beer. Delicious. Change My Name or Leave It. This is from Carton. This is their collab with Alternate Ending. Solid double. Hazy, a little juicy. I got this. I think I bought this can at Paragon Tap and Table. And it was one of those things where it was sitting in the refrigerator for a few months. I hadn't gotten around to cracking it. I'm glad that I finally did. I wanted to get through that and through this one. Laser Cap by Medusa Brewing. Solid IPA, good hop and a bite on that one. I did like to change my name or leave it. It had that, certain beers that have a certain, where they're brewed from. I've mentioned this before on the show. Carton has a distinct flavor to it. And when I say distinct, I don't mean in a bad way. It's just the way they, their malts that they use and the yeast and, all that stuff. You know that it's a Carton beer, right? Very rarely do you have a Carton beer that doesn't have that profile in it while you're tasting it. Same thing with Alternate Ending, same thing with Kane, same thing with everybody. Each uses a different base, or they might use the same base, but maybe it's the water profile, the water table. Maybe it's just something else in the mix. But I always know when I'm drinking a Carton beer. And, listen, Augie does a phenomenal job. And I love Boat as much as the next person. I could drink Boat all day long, as Augie likes to say. It's the beer drinker's beer. It's the beer you want to drink when you want to drink beer. That's it. Beer-flavored beer. That's it. Plain and simple. Solid. You can have a couple. It's, it's a solid brew. But I love when Augie does these collabs with different breweries. And obviously, Carton and Alternate Ending, not too far from one another. A perfect collab from them. And finally, Flippin' Pancakes by Kane Brewing. This is another one of those where I bought this well over a year ago, or it was given to me. I don't remember if this was given to me by my cousin Pam, or maybe I bought it. I think I bought this. And it was, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but I remember making a stop at Kane for some stuff on a whole bunch of travels, and I picked this up, and I said, you know what? I'm going to let this sit for a little bit because I want to share it with people, and it didn't get around to sharing it with folks, and so I decided to crack it, and I have to tell you, sweet but not overly so. It's a maple bomb for sure, but the sweetness is not over the top. Now, I don't know if that's because it's been sitting in the fridge for well over a year, and it's sort of tamped down a little bit. I'm sure if you'd open this, on the day it was bottled, it would probably have a little bit more sweetness to it, but the maple and the sweetness in a very good way on this one. Cinnamon and vanilla are still there. They're not overly present, but they're in the beer. You can taste them. You can sort of pick out that individual ingredient, but they're not overwhelming one another. It's not intense. And again, high ABV beer, so you want to be very careful when you're drinking this. It is a barley wine, technically. So some interesting stuff out of this, an interesting mix out of this. And I have to say, it was very, very good. I enjoyed it. I still have a few more bottles to get to. I know at the end of the month, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to be on with the lager guys, the lager room guys, and they're going to do their year-end show where we're drinking nothing less than 13%. So it's going to be a fun night, and thankfully I'll have the next day off from work. So I know that's at the end of the month. I think that's Monday the 30th they're doing that. So it'll be interesting. We'll have some fun with that. And I have some more Kane bottles to crack open and some other stuff, too. I think I have something from The Answer. Maybe maybe that's one of the ones that I'll crack that night. Anyway, my thanks to everybody involved in the show, as well as my guest, Joel Geier, the author of Flights Across America, a brewery lover's journey. And, of course, last but not least, the great Buddy Watson. Back live on the Joe Piscopo Show Monday at 6 a.m. This has been the Al Gattullo Craft Beer Cast on AM 970 The Answer. Cheers, everybody.